X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach, and Adam.
Hey, what's happening, Zach?
I'm just thinking, Adam, you know, I had podcasts before you.
I know.
I had podcasts.
But that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. And you know what? There were people that I knew before you, and that's fine. We've accepted that. We each have, full lives outside of this podcast and before this podcast. And at some point, hopefully in the far future, this podcast will end, and we'll still have lives outside of this podcast and afterwards. But I always wonder, Adam. What if?
What? Oh. What if?
What if I didn't do this podcast with you? What if I had talked to someone else and did this podcast with them instead?
You'd probably just end up doing it with that guy Luke,
Yeah, Luke Herr's here, guys. Luke, he is the podcast host of Multiversal Q and the game master of RPG Pals Club, and he is currently the mastermind behind the Kickstarter for Super Slashers, which is a comic I got confused with some other comics he's been telling me about that involve Sentais and summer camps. But this one's just called Super Slashers. It's your friend and mine, Luke Herr. Luke, everybody!
Hello, Zach and Adam. How are you doing tonight?
Why are you doing
Great,
a voice?
Luke.
Can't you do a regular
I'm not
voice?
doing a voice.
That's just his voice. It sounds great.
I thought
Silky
he was doing,
smooth.
It sounded like he was doing like a Mr. Belvedere thing.
No. You've confused me with the normal Luke from your universe. Normal Luke is actually busy. He goes to bed at 9 o'clock nowadays.
I could have
And
sworn
so
we
he had to
already-
call
I
in-
told you no bits. I told you explicitly. I have the receipts. We said no bits, and I even did a bit for you up at the front.
All right, no bits.
No bits.
We'll come back.
Put those bits away.
We're going to talk about what ifs if you haven't picked up on that. That's thanks to Nathan Brock. Nathan went over to patreon.com/XavierFiles. And he said, hey, talk about What If Magik from 2018 by your friend and mine, Leah Williams, friend of the show. Someone who, by the time you've listened to this, I've met, and hopefully we are best friends forever. I assume we are at this point. Hi, Leah. My best friend who obviously listens to this podcast. And Felipe Andrade does the incredible art on this one. Now, Luke, you're the What If boy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they call you these days. Luke the What If boy here.
Well, currently I'm Ultimate Luke Boy, because we've been covering all of the Ultimate Universe.
Ultimate Universe is just one real extended What If, right? Like all What Ifs, everyone dies at the end, and that's kind of the story of the Ultimate Universe.
Not everybody dies, Zach. And because I'm a comic fan, I need to be pedantic about this.
Look, I am on the Hickman dark side of everyone dies. You can be on the everyone lives side, but I have, stuck my claim. Luke, what happens in What If Magik became Sorcerer Supreme?
So, you know how Magik normally just goes back to the X-Men and lives a normal-ish teen life and then dies of an allegory?
Yeah, that's about right.
What if she started just kind of not exactly serial killing people just to survive when she escaped Limbo, and then Doctor Strange tracked her down and was like, oh, hey, you've got potential. I'm going to be a kind of good magic dad and help you deal with trauma.
In the sort of goofiest way he possibly can. Mm-hmm. I love this comic book so much.
I also love this comic book so much.
Oh, it's so good. That's a great distillation of it, though, because it really is just all about these goofy interactions between Doctor Strange, who really does mean well, and Ileana, who is so broken and just trying to survive, and they're such great foils for each other here.
So what's interesting, you say goofy, and I don't think you're wrong, but I think it's going to give people who haven't read this the right impression. This is a serious story, and there are some incredibly powerful emotional moments in it. A lot of it that comes down to Felipe Andrade.
Yeah, that's an understatement. This is probably the only comic book to make me cry within the last 5 years.
Really?
I don't get super emotionally invested.
I'm not a comic book crier either.
No.
Okay. Did either of you read Klaus, the Morrison comic that came out this year?
I did not read this year's version of Claus. I don't know if it's pronounced Klaus or Claus, but if I say Claus in Morrison comic, people are going to know that's the one where he does Batman Year One, but it's Santa Claus.
Yeah, this year's was all splash pages, one for each day of Christmas, going back in time to different days of Christmas. No words, and by the end of that, it was like, oh, I see how it all works. I am crying now. This is me crying at my desk because that's where I read comics on Wednesdays.
I gotta check that out. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Never had Santa Claus make me cry.
Well, then you had a lot of good Christmases, and you need to check your privilege.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
You never had you never had Santa leave Mighty Max toys stuck in your fireplace.
No, that
and
came
so you
out
didn't
wrong.
find them out until 2 days later, and you thought that Santa didn't like you.
You never
Just
had
to be-
Santa leave a note on your
God.
bike saying that the bikes broke on the way down the chimney and that he had to get replacement parts from the North Pole.
Guys, they made it sound like I had these bountiful Christmases. It was really just because my mother really wanted me to believe in Jesus, not Santa. So,
Jesus doesn't bring gifts on Christmas. It's Santa. It can be two things.
Not
Jesus
to my
brings the
parents.
greatest gift of all you can eat bread and wine.
No, that's very good. That's very good. He brings that on Easter, though. That's explicitly brings it on a different holiday.
No, explicitly he brings it the
on
week
Passover,
before.
yes. Well, the night before, yes, on Passover. He walks in. He comes in on with the ass and the with the palm branches on Palm Sunday, and then he does the whole thing. We all grew up understanding this stuff. Some of us were very good champions of Bible quiz trivia that you did do competitively with the other students at the different churches around the area.
Zach, I'm sensing another bad iTunes review coming out now.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But speaking of childhood trauma brought on by people who lived long times ago, Belasco's in this.
That's a great transition, buddy.
We are good at segues here. Belasco's in this one. Belasco does try and hunt Ileana again, and he's mad that she's shacked up in a literally living in his house sense and nothing else, because this comic is not problematic.
The tall basketball man does not show up.
Yeah. Shaquille O'Neal, for people who don't follow sports, which I assume is 90% of our podcast.
Wait, are you saying there are people out there who are more familiar with Belasco, the former Lord of Limbo, than world-famous basketball player and car salesman Shaquille O'Neal?
I'm saying
Shazam?
I'm saying if those people
too.
existed, they listen to this podcast, dang it.
If you do know about Belasco but not Shaq, please tweet at my account, Jake Loves Otters on Twitter, with Shaq.
Anyway, focusing on this very good comic that we do need to talk about because Lee is a friend, and again, we're going to be objective here, but I do love this comic so much. Magik has to fight Belasco, and she's struggling this whole thing to do creation magic. It's the only kind of magic she can't do. And she finds out, finally, in a moment of stress, that she can do creation magic, in fact, and she doesn't create a weapon. In fact, she doesn't make a soul sword. She makes a soul staff, and it makes her feel complete. It makes her feel like the child that was taken from her, and it's heart-wrenching.
That's the page, man.
That's the page.
That's-
Felipe Andrade. Just grand slam on this one.
That 3 panel, Jesus Christ. It's just, it knocks it out of the park. It's so good. One of the limitations that this book has is that it's really short.
It's like a 20-page comic.
Yeah, I feel like it really needed maybe like 3 extra pages. But I gotta give it credit for doing everything that it does in these 20 pages. It's outstanding that it manages to get this version of Ileana. It manages to really harken back to our Magik mini-series version of the character. It gets Stephen Strange's, dad vibe. And it gets into dealing with this core trauma with this character. And it makes me excited to see this version of Ileana continue.
I wish that Leo Williams would walk into Mark Waid's office and grab him by the scruff of his neck and throw him out the door and say, "I am doing Doctor Strange now. You can stop. This is my book." Because she kills it with this character. She absolutely nails it. And you said it right. It's a dad vibe, which is not what I'd think from Doctor Strange. But, he's been there. He's done that. He isn't weirded out by how weird his life is. He's just kind of rolling with it. And I love that. That's perfect.
It is wonderful.
Yeah. And he's admittedly bad at it. There's this great sequence where they're sitting at the table eating food, and she's telling them her life story. And then at the end of it, he's like, "Hey, so you want to be my apprentice?" And, Wong's like, "She just got done telling you how she didn't want to do that. That's how she was emotionally scarred." I love it. And it's done with such economy that it's so smart.
This is good What If. A lot of What Ifs are bad, and we're going to talk about those later. But this is a great What If. Any closing thoughts before we move on to the ranking segment of our show?
I love this book, and I would like to rank it very high, but let's talk about our gigantic list.
Luke, do you know how many stories we have on our list?
I do not know, because I know you ranked 3 more on the episode most recently. I'm going to go with over 12. You've been doing this for a few weeks now.
We have over 12 stories on this list. The number 1 of those stories is Dark Phoenix Saga. Adam, do we have to start jumping by 75s now?
I mean, you can't just keep going 50s because
Last week it felt like 50s was a lot.
Maybe just give the hundreds. Give the recaps.
Okay.
The big milestones.
100 is Astonishing Spider-Man and Wolverine. 200 is Special Edition X-Men #1, the backup story where Kitty Pryde and Ileana give you a tour of the mansion. Number 300 is Iceman Volume 1, where he goes to fight the cosmic embodiment of oblivion and nothingness. And then number 336 is a comic that I wish was a What If. It's called The Draco.
Why do you wish it was a What If?
Because it's bad. We have a whole episode on it. Go listen to that. It's number 50,
Yeah.
I think.
But no, what is your What If for the Draco, Zach?
My
What if it
what if
wasn't
for
written?
the Draco is exactly the Draco, except for it didn't happen in the real 616 continuity, where they said, "Oh yeah, Abyss is Nightcrawler's brother, as is a guy named Kiwi Black."
Back in college, I knew a guy who was super into Kiwi Black, and I never understood why. And then he was like, "Oh, he's Nightcrawler's brother. Nightcrawler's actually a demon." And I was like, "No, I don't read comics yet at this point, but that's wrong. That misses the point of Nightcrawler." Anyways, ranking this thing, it's very good. It's much better than the Draco.
It is. It breaks the top 100 for sure, because
Yes.
it's better than Astonishing Spider-Man and Wolverine. I'm trying to see what ifs we have around here. Because what ifs tend not to rank, crazy high. Okay, wait, I know the what if that is high.
Wolverine was Lord of the Vampires?
Yeah, this is better than number 60. What if Wolverine was Lord of the Vampires?
Oh, definitely. I think that's a bad comic.
You're wrong. You're objectively wrong because it's beautiful and I love it. Doctor Strange? He's the Punisher in that one. Mm-hmm. he shoots.
I think
magic
there's great
bullets.
ideas. I don't think it works as well as you do, but we both have different takes
We do. Mine's the objectively correct one because I control the list.
for this show.
Sure. That's true. That's true. I like this better than Uncanny X-Men and the New Teen Titans at number 42. Adam?
I do as well. That means we are already above the original Storm and Ileana Magik miniseries, which was at 52.
I'm gonna say something.
All right.
I think it's better than Dead Souls.
We've got now we're passing some more Ileana milestones. At 35, we had the New Mutants arc of Inferno.
I know we did. I know we passed
have
that one.
New Mutants Dead Souls at 32. I think this is a top 30 story. So how high are we willing to go?
Ooh, it isn't better than number 19, Magneto 1 through 3, Infamous by Cullen Bunn and Gabriel Hernandez Walter.
I think we're in the same realm, though, as sort of a character-defining issue, like the Nightcrawler mini at 21.
Mm-hmm.
Is it better than Wounded Wolf, though? Is it better than Wounded Wolf?
I don't know
You
if
mean
it's
the one
better.
where Wolverine protects the power pack?
Yes, he protects a power pack with Barry Windsor Smith art. Nothing
All
right.
up
So
here is
is Dr.
bad.
No,
Is
let's.
Doctor Strange protecting a Russian child better than Wolverine protecting a child from New York who got powers from a magic space horse?
I think we got to dial it back just a little bit here because I don't know that I can put it above 25, which is the Brood Saga.
I think that's fair. I will say I like it better than Life Death, though, at 29.
Do you like it better than Life Death 2 at 26? I mean, that is tough.
No, but I think I like it better than that time that they thought Madeline Pryor was back, but she was, or that Phoenix was back, but she wasn't. It was just Mastermind trying to screw with the X-Men, and then Scott gets married.
Those are issues Uncanny X-Men 174 and 175.
That's 28
All right.
on the list right now.
Yeah, I'm going to say that this should be, this is my opinion, we should put it as our new 28, because I don't know if it's better than Uncanny X-Men 98 to 100 when the Sentinels are back, the Christmas story. That is just classic X-Men. That I don't know that this is better than that.
I think that's fair. A fantastic showing for a really good one-shot that I do love and that I am biased about. But this is What If Magic 28. Y'all know this was Leah Williams' first full Marvel comic.
Kills it. Absolutely kills it. Knows the character inside out, knows Strange inside out, and just nails it. It's so smart.
Yeah,
And tells a story that hasn't been told before while adding more to both characters.
which is the most shocking thing about a What If.
Yeah.
Anyway,
should
also read
compare
Doctor
it
Strange
with-
The End that
Oh,
came
right,
out a
yeah.
couple weeks ago. It's a follow-up to this story. It's more Doctor Strange focused, which just reinforces to me that Leah Williams should be writing Doctor Strange and Felipe Andrade should be drawing Doctor Strange. And like Mark, respectfully, tell the story you need to tell. And, I mean, go be Mark Waid. Go remind us about Onslaught. We should
All
talk
right.
about a different story. 'Cause
Well,
now
let's
I'm
talk
just
about
getting mad.
some normal-ish What If from Volume 2, which is started in 1989, and we're going to talk about an X-Men themed issue here, correct?
Yeah, this is What If the X-Men had lost the Inferno. And Luke, what if the X-Men had lost Inferno? What do you think?
I would make the mistake of suggesting this when you were asking for comics as a Patreon backer of the show.
Yeah.
So you
Did
know
you
how
forget it was
normally-
bad?
Oh no, I just hadn't read this one. I was like, oh, well, Zach's doing a story about Ileana. Let's do a quick search. Oh, here's an Inferno event crossover that hasn't been done. Going to send that one in, and some others.
Hey, Wolverine eats a baby.
Wolvie, you're going to eat a baby!
Fresh from the nursery.
Wolverine. Wolverine is infernoized in this one. He's not a vampire, but he honestly acts just like Wolverine was Lord of the Vampires in this story written by Danny Fingeroth with pencils by Ron Lim, inks by Keith Williams.
How do you guys feel about Ron Lim? Ron Lim was always sort of like George Perez was not available, so let's call Ron Lim. Like, do we like Ron Lim?
If he had gotten a better story to draw, I would have been more interested.
So you don't want to see Wolverine Inferno style stab Spider-Man through the heart and say, "Aced that sucker."
I'm gonna be honest.
I don't
guys.
want to see Sim smooching with Madeline Pryor necessarily.
Oh, gross.
Can I tell you something? I'm not a big Ron Lim fan. I think
Interesting.
Fair.
he's fine. Though one of my first comics, I've said my first comic a lot on this show, but one of my first comics was a Ron Lim comic. It was Silver
Which
Surfer
was?
number 50. It has a cool cover. It's literally it's hanging
His
on
Silver
my wall
Surfer
right
run
over
is
here.
great. Yeah.
It has
really good.
It has like kind of not die cut, but it's like pushed out Silver Surfer. It's a cool cover.
Good run. Good run there. You know what this issue does do? Obviously the setup is that the X-Men lose Inferno, Maddie and Sim take over New York and continue.
Maddie does like several baby murders.
Yeah, lots of baby murder. And we've got a small group of superheroes. But it does follow up, strangely enough, on a lost point of Inferno, which was that Rachel got turned into a mannequin. Mm-hmm. So Doctor
Like in the movie
Strange
Mannequin.
goes and gets the mannequin. And
He's like, "Oh yeah, you have Phoenix power. Let's go."
you have a little bit of Phoenix power in you.
Got a little Phoenix in you.
Yeah, Lim gets to draw a lot of flames here between the Human Torch and the Phoenix and all the magic floating around here. Anyway, it's a mess. It's like one of all these what if stories where everybody dies. So Wolverine kills Kitty Pryde, kills Spider-Man, kills everybody.
Then Wolverine gets turned into a skeleton, but then Sim possesses that skeleton.
I kind of like that. That was
That
fun.
part was dope, actually. Because Sim's mad.
And he also has a soul sword.
He does. That was the best part. It still wasn't great. I don't even know what to say about this. This is your very generic what if, where the art's not that great, the story's actually kind of boring, and everyone dies. And then Doctor Strange and Rachel have a baby.
No, that's not what
Alicia
happens.
Masters, who was married to Johnny Storm at the time, have a baby. Because remember how there's all those times where it's like, oh, Alicia Masters is the only woman who will ever love Ben Grimm. And then she ends up marrying Johnny. And
Wasn't that a
everyone's like,
scroll? That was a scroll, right?
oh, sometimes.
Depends on the story. Yeah.
Yeah. If by the fact that I forgot what happens at the end of it tells you anything, this one's an incredibly forgettable comic. I literally had to get to the end of the story before I was like, wait, no, I've read this one before.
You didn't like Ron Lim's little Fantastic Four baby, which basically just looks like the Watcher.
The Epilim.
It was all... This one's not good. It's boring. That's the thing. This should be exciting. It's not. It's boring.
I don't know. I've heard people come to the defense of these issues because, like, it's no holds bar and you get to do whatever you want. But at the same time, it does lack a certain amount of imagination when all you do is use the what if format to just kill everybody and end the world repeatedly. So what does that say about the format? You know what I mean?
It's easy to cop out.
I guess.
I think Luke's right there. It's easy to cop out. However, I understand the people who like a, what if style story where there are, no holds barred and all that stuff, and you can just like give endings to characters. But that only works if you build an emotional connection and emotional stakes within those characters where it like matters that they died. Like Old Man Logan is a story I really like. Yeah, it's got issues. I still like it. It's real pretty, and it's a Rickrollin' adventure, and we'll talk about that on an episode when someone finally requests Old Man Logan, which is a weird one that no one's requested. Maybe our listeners don't care about Wolverine.
That's
Is
possible.
Wolverine a member of the X-Men?
Yeah, sometimes.
He's in this. He's on the cover here. He's got the knives. He's the knife boy.
I
eats
thought that was an
babies.
old man who was also just happened to be named Logan.
No. He was in a feature film that made me cry. You know him. It was named after him
X-Men First Class?
for some reasons.
Well, let me ask you this, Zach, because I feel like we don't have a lot of substance to talk about this book. So let's start comparing it to some other what ifs we have on the list.
Can I finish my Old Man Logan point so I don't have to edit?
Oh,
around
I'm
that
sorry.
word
I
transition?
thought go ahead.
No, I didn't actually say anything. I just said the words Old Man Logan.
I got excited and wanted to keep going.
I know it's not your fault.
All right, so why do you love Old Man Logan so much?
So there's a death in Old Man Logan, and spoilers for this old comic, where Hawkeye bites it pretty suddenly and pretty unexpectedly. And that does have emotional stakes because you've spent time with this character and this Hawkeye and you care about him. And even though he's gone, and he was never going to stick around because it's a what if, you cared about the character and it mattered that he was gone. And I think most what ifs lose that. They just say, and you're dead, and you're dead, and you're dead, and you're dead. And it's like certain runs of X-Men comics where you just get numb to the death.
That's a great point. I mean, you don't usually have any time in these stories to spend any time with the characters because the characters are just they're there.
Wait, so y'all didn't have any emotional reaction when Dr. Druid, Jennifer Kale, Shaman, She-Hulk, and Captain America all die on the exact same page?
No, because
in the space of 5
they
panels?
might have just died in the same panel. I mean, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, it meant something to me when Dr. Druid bit it, because that guy, he knew from AV chords.
Well, here's what I will say. I think Ron Lim is doing an okay job here, and that automatically makes this better than number 330, which was What If Wolverine was Lord of the Vampires during Inferno?
I
which
would
was
agree
What
with
If number
that.
37.
Luke, maybe you were thinking of that one, which is really bad.
No, I know what I was talking about.
I don't believe you. Anyway.
Fair. Well,
Is
you
this...
just got to listen to Multiversal Q.
I've listened to a lot of it. I've listened to a lot of it. Let's not
There's
get
a lot of
into
it.
who listens to whose podcast here. Let's not have that discussion. I listened to all of Exiled because I loved it, Luke. Mm-hmm. Is this better or worse than X Patrol? Now that I'm on the weird spot and feeling self-conscious.
What number is that?
313, X Patrol number 1. It's got the Doom Patrol and the X-Men in it, and they're the same. And it's a nothing story.
Oh, I like that more than this.
Oh, all right.
I mean,
As the
I think
person
that's
who has read
about
all
there.
the amalgams.
I've read 2 of the amalgams. Y'all heard about it 2 weeks ago.
Better or worse than Onslaught, Zach?
You really just gave me a pickle there, didn't you?
I mean,
Can I offer my insight onto this conundrum?
please do.
One of these is only a single issue. The other is like over 100 connected issues and
Technically,
signal the death of Marvel.
technically, this amount of Onslaught is only like 20 issues because we broke it up into bite-sized pieces. At least as
Where-
bite-sized as you can.
Was that bite size better?
I don't think this story's better than the first 616 arc of X-Man, which is also bad.
All right. So it's all about Onslaught. Is it better or worse than Onslaught?
I think Luke brings up a very good point that I forgot I've read this multiple times, where Onslaught will be burnt into my memory because I spent so much time on it. So it can be 315. This can be
All
already
right.
315.
315 it is. The last story is a real doozy, guys. Where did this one come from?
I think this one also came from Luke. Did this come from
Oh,
you,
yeah?
Luke? Or did this come from someone else?
I think it came from someone else. I might have just been like, I don't think it was for me. Let's check the old Patreon.
We don't have to. You know who you are. Thank you for this one. This is X-Men Unlimited 37 by Carrie Andrews, with special pencils by Carrie Andrews, Mike Kunkel, Dave McCraig, Josh Middleton, Troy Nixie, and Scotty Young.
Sort of. He stops by.
I mean, yeah, Scotty Young's in this one. He got paid. Scotty Young made that cash.
For sure. It's not as refined as Scotty Young as we might expect. And the story that is being told here is bonkers.
Yeah, it's a weird one. So this isn't really a what if, but it's kind of a what if, because on an alternate universe, there's a child and his name is Hutch.
That's
this was Near Ravel, friend of the show.
Oh, friend of the show, Near Ravel.
Oh, interesting.
This is Hutch. Hutch is Magik's kid from a different universe, and
Right.
Sort of.
he's from a different universe, but also he got born into the space between all universes, and all universes have equal claim on this child. So he's a ghost everywhere.
Except to Farmer Dad.
Except to Farmer Dad, whose name I don't remember.
Farmer Dad
Mr.
is...
Thatchell.
Mr. Thatchell is more than willing to destroy the entire mutant race because he believes that his son was killed by a mutant, not realizing that his son was the mutant who was responsible for multiple deaths.
What dramatic irony.
This results in Ilyana, basically folding the multiverse onto a single point and trying to destroy all of mutants.
She makes a deal with Mephisto.
Oh, right,
where
Mephisto.
She
Mephisto.
will gather up all the mutants, and then Mephisto will gobble them up, and Ileana will get to have her boy Hutch.
Right.
Look, the story's not great. The story's an excuse for Carrie Andrews to draw every version of every X-Man he feels like.
And Zach, you mentioned the rotating artists here, and to start with, I guess I kind of understand. I mean, we have this Thatchell plot with Hutch that is being told in, I guess, the best... how would you describe this art style? It's kind of like Sunday
Storybook?
morning cartoons, right? Like,
I was going to go with Calvin and Hobbes.
yeah. It's got kind of a Calvin and Hobbes thing, and then we're switching over to a more, let's say, realistic. I don't want to call it a house style because it's not, but
It's Josh Middleton doing the the 616 regular stuff where Kitty is weird. I say weirdly, but I don't mean it in that sense. Kitty is emotionally invested in Ileana and thinking Ileana may have existed, and that's the only picture that Kitty leaves on her bedside table.
yep.
Yeah, they love each other, and it's so sweet. And Marvel, you're doing better with the X-Men and letting them all just, love who they love. Let them. Just let them happen. Let it happen.
So we get, I get those two art styles bouncing back and forth. The problem is that we then start inserting even more art styles. Mm-hmm. So when we get to the point where Ileana is going to collapse this multiverse and kill everybody with Mephisto, we get another style. Then we have these vignettes, like there's a very strange, weird thing where Wolverine gets attacked by all the Wolverines, and that's in another style. And then Scotty Young shows up for a page, and then we get, I don't know, then there's another style when Mephisto shows up. So there's this whiplash that you get with the storytelling, and each individual style could have been an interesting way to tell this story, or maybe just to pick two, or maybe three at the most. But the fact that there's 6 or 7, it kind of detracts from the entire thing. And what should be a lot of fun, I found a little too schizophrenic for my reading pleasure.
I would
Yeah,
agree.
like when you go from very grim, gaunt-looking Mephisto on one page to, oh, now it's just a bunch of demons made out of shadow.
Yeah, and they look kind of happy.
Yeah, it doesn't like super work, which is to this book's detriment, because it should be good. This should be a fun story, but it's not actually. It's kind of boring. Like, it's not the showcase of art that you want it to be.
Right. It's trying to switch between these for intent, in terms of what the story is doing, but it doesn't match up. So you instead are flipping the page and not really sure why the style has shifted, and the jokes don't land either. Like there's the multiple pages of the Wolverine jokes, and it's not exciting. Like, it's not exciting to see all these Wolverines try and slash at each other. It's not funny. The Scotty Young page where like 3 Wolverines yell fastball special. It's like, okay, I guess.
It's fine.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I want to like this a lot more than I actually do. And there are sections of it that I think are really cool. But as a cohesive whole, it falls apart.
Mm-hmm. And the different art styles, like you said, don't really have a reason to, a lot of them, especially in the battle scene. And so it's like, I remember reading through this and was like, why do they keep switching art styles? Are these different universes or something? Or is it supposed to be for a reason? And no, it's just like, oh, I want to do this and let's get different people. At the end, Kitty has a dog. Is that dog important at all in continuity?
No.
Or does she just have a dog?
No, Kitty just finds a dog for a hot second.
I forgot about the dog, man. Why did she have a
forgot
dog?
about the dog too.
I think Hutch, who becomes a ghost boy, gives her a dog, and then Hutch leaves and the dog vanishes.
Okay.
Look,
Yeah, and is it a happy ending for Hutch? I mean, you feel like he's still Ghost Boy wandering in between the universes forever.
Hickman's bringing Hutch back.
he got universally suicided or something. It's not great.
Nah.
Look, X-Men Unlimited lasted way longer than people remember. This went into 2003, and then they rebooted it for another, 12 issues. X-Men Unlimited went on for so long, and there's a point that they just kind of quit doing anything that mattered with it. And this is well past that point. This is deep into the none of this matters section.
I looked at the cover for the issue before, and it's got a very provocatively drawn Kitty Pryde dressed like a Squirrel Girl outside a principal's office with Lockheed. And it's like, why is that something that actually happens in this story?
Oddly enough, that story, that one is super important to mechanics. To Extreme X-Men mechanics. That story.
You're making it sound like mechanics is important. It's
a lot of people love mechanics. A lot of people do. It's just
They're
not
not
us.
me.
It's just not us, and we need to accept that so they don't get mad at us.
It's above the 300 threshold, so we'll give it some credit.
Good. Is this one going to be above the 300 threshold?
Yeah.
Man,
It tries something. It just kind of bafflingly flops.
How do you feel about it,
300,
Zach?
300 right now is Star Trek The Next Generation / X-Men Second Contact. So it's close. This isn't as good as Mechanics at 290.
No, it's not. Is it better or worse than Poptopia at 293?
Got a chunk right here. It's probably better than Heroes for Hope
Yeah.
at 296.
Which is an interesting comparison point, given the variety of art that's here and sort of the nonsensical structure of the story.
Actually, as I say that out loud, I'd rather read Heroes for Hope. George R.R. Martin does one in that one.
And Stephen King.
Stephen King does one in that one. So many people do one in that one.
I'm going to say that it should go in between the Star Treks, because I think I would rather read Star Trek X-Men, but Star Trek Next Generation X-Men doesn't quite hold up as well. So,
Luke, you read those Star Trek X-Men?
No, I'm not a Star Trek boy.
I'm not a Star Trek boy either. We still did it, because that's our job.
that's right.
That's
I've read
what the
Green
people...
Lantern Star Trek.
My ceiling would be 297, which is the introduction of the Blob.
It doesn't
X-Men
matter.
#3.
It's our new 300. I already put it there.
Perfect. Love it.
Sometimes
Sold.
I just once I feel like we've decided, even if we haven't felt like we've decided, I just do the work on the spreadsheet anyway, and I say
I know that feeling.
it goes there, guys. We got to wrap this one up. But that was fun. We talked about some what ifs, and what if this was a good podcast? Maybe more people would listen to it. Who knows? But Nathan Brock listens to it, and Nathan, thank you so much for this episode. It was a lot of fun. We got to talk about that one good story that we all really love. So that was great, and then some other stuff. But that one's our fault, and the fault of the people at like the $5 a month level on Patreon who
Me and
suggested
Nir's
other
fault.
stories. Yeah, it's Ner. I love you, man.
Ner.
I'm glad we saw it. I'm glad we read that one. It was weird.
It was weird. Hey, if you want to be like these Patreons, go to Patreon and do the Patreon thing. There's a lot of rewards. At the $5 a month level, you get early access to the episodes, and that's great. So you'll get this one early, maybe super early. It depends on how much I edit. But if I edit too early, then you're going to have a little bit of wait, because we're recording this low early because me and Adam just got back from C2E2, as you listen to this probably. And it was great. We met. I hope we don't hate each other at this point.
Hate each other? That's impossible, Zach. Come on.
I don't know. Last time I went to C2E2 with someone, they ended up sleeping on the couch because I had a bit of a cold, and my night sleeps were loud.
Yes, but you don't. That person doesn't hate you. You don't hate that person.
Look. That person who will remain nameless, but if you figure out who I went to C2E2 last year and figure out which ones weren't married, you could probably narrow it down. There were some challenges that week. But, be like them. Do the Patreon thing. I've lost track. Luke, you're still here, though. And hey,
Yes,
Luke,
I am.
Why'd we invite you on this podcast, besides the fact that we're friends?
Because you didn't get me on when you were having the guest people while Adam was on sabbatical for his Kickstarter. But speaking of Kickstarters...
Bum.
I've currently got one going on. Y'all know Buffy the Vampire Hunter Slayer?
Slayer. The Slayer.
No, Slayer did Rain in Blood.
Rain and Blood.
No, which one are you talking about? No, because Slayer did all those really good thrash songs that we all love. Actually, Slayer is my least favorite of the big four thrash bands. It's Megadeth, and then Metallica, then Anthrax, then Slayer. Anyway.
Zach, you know he's not actually talking about real Slayer, right? He's talking about his comic book
Is
that
he
he's
not
trying
talking
to
about
fundraise for. So what's it called, Luke? Tell us about it.
I'm doing a comic called Super Slasher, where the sort of elevator pitch is it's Superboy and Buffy meet on a blind date, hit it off, and then it turns out that they are targeted by a supernatural serial killer who wants to kill both of them to fulfill an ancient rite. And that's when she finds out that he is the clone of the world's greatest superhero, and he finds out that she is a monster hunter who's specifically trying to hunt down this super slasher.
That sounds
Are there-
great.
That's where the title comes from.
Are there any Power Rangers involved?
No, that's Sentai Slasher Summer Camp, another project that I've got in various stages of quote-unquote the works.
And who do you got collaborating with you on this Kickstarter?
I have the fabulous Caitlin Scannell, who is providing the art for this. It's a 10-page mini-comic. When we're recording this, I'm under $100 away from getting the book printed in color, and then another $150 after that from adding on some extra pages. This is sort of our pitch book. It's a satisfying story, but we have more that we want to tell, so hopefully with the Kickstarter we can get some interest, get some funding, and see what happens next.
But you say you were talking about some goals that sounded like you were stretching to get them. Are you telling me this Kickstarter is already funded?
Yes, it has been funded for over a week at this point.
So
Congrats.
If people go and they support it, there's no second guessing. They're getting this comic.
Oh yeah, and we already have all of the black and white art for the book done. So if we don't reach color, it'll be super quick to ship. And it's really good if you order a physical copy of the book. you will also get a free print.
Ooh, that's exciting. So y'all go check out this Kickstarter. There's a link in our episode notes. And go support Luke, because frankly, he's been one of the first supporters of this podcast and this show. And he was our first guest. And, we want to show him a good time here.
I backed it.
I backed it.
Cool.
Thank you both. And thank you to anyone else who backs. Also, I do some other stuff. Can I plug that right now?
Plug away.
You have to.
Zach, Adam, y'all love those Ultimate X-Men, right?
I got some strong feelings, and they're strongly positive about certain parts of Ultimate X-Men, yes.
They're okay.
There's some stairs to climb during it. We're currently on Multiversal Q. We have become Ultiversal Q, where we are covering all of the Ultimate Universe. When this episode goes up, 2 weeks from now, said Luke, checking his schedule, we're getting close to Ultimatum, y'all, and dark times ahead. Like, we did Ultimate Power last week for us, and then this weekend, as of when we're recording this, was Ultimate Human. So we're getting up to when it gets really bad for a while. But if you want to see, we're ranking like all those stories, and we have the same writer at the top of the list and at the bottom of the list. So you can check that out at multiversalq.com or Ultiversalq. There's also Exiled, which was my actual play role-playing game podcast that I hosted, which was mostly weird Marvel random continuity stuff that you didn't need to know, but got to feel better if you got what I was referencing. That is done now at Exiled Podcast, minus some things that are going to be coming up later this year. And then there's RPG Pals Club, which is at rpgpals.club, which is a 5th edition D&D role-playing game that I also DM, using the Waterdeep Dragon Heist setting, but instead of trying to find an ancient cache of gold pieces that would change everybody's life, we're a lot more interested in finding dogs and a battle of the bands. And also emotions.
Man, you're
very
busy.
good.
You're a busy man.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then I've got like 2 other things.
I've told
2 other podcasts starting soon, but
I've told Luke for years he does too much stuff and he needs to just like live life.
That's him living life.
Well,
He's
he
living.
needs to go skydiving. He needs to go Rocky Mountain climbing. He needs to go 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu.
I need to have the best soy latte that I've ever had.
Fair.
All right, guys, this is done. We're done with this episode. It was fun for us. Hopefully, it was fun for you too. Luke, thank you so much. Go support Luke, everybody. Next week, you're gonna hear our conversations from C2E2. Do you know who we talked to? We don't either.
We have no idea.
Not a clue. We got everything's tentative. Everything's so tentative, and I know it's too late, but Marvel PR guy, please get back to me and let me do my goof.
I thought goofs weren't allowed on the show.
Bits aren't allowed. Goofs are right in. Until next week, guys, this has been Valiant, and we hope you survived the experience.
Get it!